adventures and monster catchers abound. I'm Stelliferous, and you've crash landed on the Monster Catchers Journal podcast. So, the glyph that I will be telling you about today, which is named Snobii, he has three forms. The first form is called Flakels. It's a snowflake. And then the second form is Snowpacked, which is a snowball. And the final form, which is Snobii, the one I'll be talking about today, is a snowman with a snowflake for a accent on its head. So more like a, headband or something. And I hope that you enjoyed this story today. And let's see. As always, I forgot to grab my book and quill glyph. The one that logs all captured glyphs into its archive. It would have scalded me if he'd known I left him behind again, pages fluttering in disapproval like a disappointed librarian. But the excitement of discovering outweighed the lecture I knew was coming. Zena and Luna were already geared up and waiting by the rover when I realized it. Snow swirling around them in ghostly halos. Well, we'll have to do it old school, I sighed, tucking my glyph belt tighter around my coat. Manual log entries, no book and quill glyph this time. Luna just smirked. You said that like we're not going to end up frozen halfway through another storm. Optimism, Luna. Try it sometime, Zena teased, bumping her shoulder as she loaded the last crate of supplies. And just like that, we set off towards Frostfane, an abandoned mining town buried in the northern edge of Nibiru's snow belt. The name alone sent a chill through my spine, not because of the cold, but because of the rumors. They said the town was haunted by something ancient, a glyph made of snow that never melted. A watcher with a snowflake crown who appeared when the air felt silent. The journey took half a day by rover. As we crested the last hill, the horizon cracked open into white, endless snow fields broken only by the faint shapes of buildings half swallowed by frost. The old town still stood, though, barely. Wooden saloon doors creaked in the wind, and ghostly icicles hung from the broken signs like frozen fangs. Every sound was muffled, the world painted in a colorless stillness. This place gives me the creeps, Luna mutters, rubbing her gloved hands together. That's because it's too quiet, Zena replied. Not even the wind wants to come here. I activated my handheld detector. Faint resonance, static, interference, but no visual reading yet, a possible sign of a powerful glyph masking its presence. We followed the cobblestone street to what looked like an old Western-style restaurant. Swinging doors, frosted windows, a rusted sign reading the Frosted Fork. Warm light flickered through the glass, and for a moment I thought maybe the rumors about the town being dead were wrong. Inside, it was a dim and smoky and smelling faintly of cinnamon and melted wax. A dusty piano sat in the corner, a single candle dripping beside it. Every head turned as the three of us stepped in, the kind of collective pause that freezes conversations mid-laugh. Behind the counter stood a woman with a towering beehive of chestnut hair, styled perfectly despite the cold. Her apron was old-fashioned, her smile polite but tight. "Afternoon," she said, in a voice smooth as syrup, but cold as the snow outside. "Travelers don't come here much anymore." "We're not tourists," I said, stepping forward, trying to sound calm even though the air felt heavy with tension. "We're looking for something, someone. Do you know where Snobii is?" The name hadn't even finished leaving my mouth before a chorus of gasps rippled through the room. A glass shattered. The piano player's hands froze mid-key. One man muttered a prayer under his breath, another turned pale and hurried out the back door. The woman behind the counter just stared at me, her eyes wide but unreadable. Then she leaned in, lowering her voice. "You don't want to be asking about him, child," she whispered. "Snobii don't like being disturbed, and the snow here listens when you speak his name." The flame of the candle nearest us flickered violently, then snuffed out. Luna and Zena both looked at me. Zena's hand was already inching toward her glyphid belt. I exhaled slowly, feeling the static from my detector pulse again. A faint blue light on the display. "Too late," I said softly. "He's already listening." We stepped back outside, and that's when I saw him. At first I thought it was just another snowdrift piled high near the old saloon porch, until it moved. The heap shuddered, rose, and towered above us, a figure taking shape beneath the flurries. He was enormous, at least twice my height, built of packed snow that shimmered faintly with blue frostlight. His eyes, twin chunks of coal, burned like black stars, and his carrot nose looked sharp enough to pierce ice itself. But what caught my attention most was the icicle protruding from his head, spiraling upward like a crown. It wasn't ordinary ice. It pulsed faintly, rhythmically, as if alive with ancient energy, a glyph energy, unmistakable. My fingers tingled as the cold aura rolled through the air, vibrating against my soul. I didn't have a wristband or tracker like some catchers did. All I had was an instinct, years of field experience, and the faint hum of power that glyphs always seem to leave behind. "Luna! Zena!" I whispered, my breath turning white. "That's him. That's Snobii." The Snowbee's coal eyes shifted towards us for a moment. There was silence, just the creaking of the old wooden sign swinging in the wind, and the faint whistle of air through broken window panes. Then Snobii roared. It wasn't just a sound, it was a blizzard in a single breath. The gust slammed into us with such force that I stumbled backward. Snow exploded in every direction. Icicles, or crystals, sliced the air like tiny blades. The ground quaked as frost crawled up from beneath our boots. Within seconds, we were buried waist deep in snow, cold, heavy, suffocating. "Get cover!" Zena shouted, shielding her eyes as Luna's glyph Myrno tried to melt the forming ice walls with a burst of light. But Snobii was relentless, his arms twisting and reshaping like storm clouds given form. He didn't move fast, he didn't need to. The storm did it for him. I could feel my fingers going numb as I reached for my glyph book, only to realize that I had left it at home. Its pages would have fluttered if I would have brought it with me. Its ink would have glowed faintly, if only it was with me. But I didn't bring it. Luna gave me that "are you serious right now" look, brushing snow from her coat. "You didn't bring him, remember?" she said, her voice muffled by the scarf pulled tight around her face. My stomach dropped right. I'd left the glyph logging book behind. All the energy readings, all the documentation, not with me. But then I remembered Aura Beak. I spun, gripping the glyphid at my belt. "Aura Beak, now!" The glyphid hissed open and Aura Beak emerged. Shining like molten gold, he wasn't a bird. Not even close. His body was a gleaming scarab, smooth and armored, with legs that clicked against the snow like twin suns. The frost clinging to the town seemed to recoil from the heat, and his duck-like beak prominent in every feature. Snowbee's coal eyes narrowed. The icicle atop his head pulsed with icy light, and the snowstorm around him writhed with living tendrils. I took a deep breath. "Aura Beak, shining sun!" The golden light erupted from his body. The beam was blinding. Not just warm, but scorching with energy, turning frozen streets into steam and melting snow walls in seconds. Snow hissed and vaporized, revealing the warped wooden planks and icicle-laden roofs of Frostfane. For a moment, it looked like sunlight had finally broke the eternal frost, but Snobii wasn't done. The giant snowman staggered, dripping from the heat, but then the icicle crown blazed with renewed energy. The snow under his feet surged upward, coiling like icy serpents. Aura Beak struggled midair, his scarab legs kicking against the frost, but the snow coils lashed around him. "Guys, he's pulling energy from the environment," I yelled, dodging a spire of ice that shot towards us. Luna reached for her glyphid. "Do you want me to send in Myrno?" "Not yet," I shouted. Aura Beak flared his golden wings. Yes, scarabs could unfurl, radiant wing-like plates, and blazed towards Snobii, focused all his energy into the shining sun. Snobii slammed both massive arms into the ground. Ice shot up in jagged pillars around us, trapping us in a glowing crystalline ring. His button mouth twisted into what almost looked like a grin. He wanted a fight, and we were about to give it to him. I set my glyphid on the snow-crusted ground, carefully keeping my distance. Snobii was enormous, a towering snowman with an icicle crown that pulsed with icy energy. One wrong step, one careless move, and I'd be buried in a flurry of jagged snow or impaled by one of his ice spikes. The glyphid whirled to life, its golden glow reflecting off the snow around us. Aura Beak's scarab body shimmered brilliantly. The duck-like beak pointed forward, radiating concentrated energy. I crouched low, eyes never leaving Snobii, as the snowman shifted, his cool eyes tracking us like dark embers. The air around us vibrated with power. Even from a distance I could feel it, a pressure that pressed against my chest, cold and heavy, carrying the weight of centuries of frost. He raised one massive arm, and a wall of snow twisted upward like a frozen tide. "Stay calm," I muttered to Luna, who was right beside me, glyphid at the ready. "Remember, he's reactive, not mindless. Watch his movements. Wait for the opening." I activated my glyphid containment protocol. The device expanded slowly, forming a luminous net around Aura Beak, the light glowing bright as the scarab channeled the shining sun, blasting heat outwards in waves that softened the surrounding ice just enough to create a small clearing. Snobii let out a roar that rattled the ground beneath us, snow and ice spiraling violently, but the glyphid held firm, anchoring in place. I could see that Snowbee's icicle crown was flashing, pulsing faster with energy, clearly reacting to Aura Beak's attack. "Keep him busy," I shouted to Luna. "Don't let him focus all his energy in one spot." The snow swirled like a storm at our feet, but the glyphid held its ground, forcing Snobii to shift back and forth as Aura Beak's shining sun worked against the freezing aura. I felt a bead of sweat form under my scarf, not from the heat, but from the tension of keeping the perfect distance while directing my glyphid. Every second counted. One step too close and Snobii's ice wrath would turn the battlefield into a frozen tomb, and yet somehow, amidst the roar of wind and the shimmering golden light of Aura Beak, I could see the flickering of Snobii's button mouth. Curiosity, maybe, even recognition. He wasn't just a snowman. He was intelligent, aware, and immensely powerful. I adjusted the glyphid slightly, angling it to create a protective barrier while letting Aura Beak's golden beams pierce through the storm. Slowly, carefully, I began guiding the battle, respecting the giant snowman, but making it clear this fight was our only chance to capture him. The glyphid pulsed once, twice, and then with a bright, almost audible snap, it engulfed Snobii. The snowman's massive form shimmered under the golden glow of Aura Beak's shining sun before being fully absorbed into the containment field. I exhaled slowly, muscles relaxing for the first time in what felt like hours. Carefully, I picked up the glyphid, feeling the residual warmth from Aura Beak's attack hum faintly through its surface. Then, as always, I slid it into my bag, securing the straps so nothing could escape. Snobii was contained, at least for now. The silence that followed was almost deafening. Then movement at the edge of the street caught my eye. Figures emerged from the buildings, cautious at first, then slowly moving closer. The townsfolk of Frostfane, pale, red-cheeked from the cold, their eyes wide with tears, stepped out into the clearing. They carried blankets, shovels, in trembling hands. They surrounded us, murmuring to one another. Relief and sorrow etched across their every face. One woman clutched a scarf to her chest, tears freezing as they rolled down her cheeks. Children peeked out from behind wooden posts, their eyes wide with awe and fear. We thought we'd never see the sun again," an older man whispered. His voice shook. "Every winter he came, and people disappeared, families gone, homes buried. Our parents, our siblings." The barkeep stepped forward, his beehive-shaped hair even more pronounced in the snow light. His eyes were red-rimmed. "You don't understand," he said, his voice trembling. "Snobii, he's taken many from us over the years. We hid, we fled, we tried everything. No one could stop him." I swallowed, feeling the weight of what we'd just done. This wasn't just a capture. This was the end to a long shadow over Frostfane. The first time the villagers had hope in years. Luna wrapped an arm around me, shivering, her voice soft. "You did it, Stelliferous. You actually did it." I nodded, lifting Aura Beak from the snow beside me. The golden scarab glimmered faintly, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it," I corrected her, "together." The villagers started to gather closer, their crying slowly turning to murmurs of gratitude. The barkeep came up to me, shaking his head in disbelief. "We thought this town was cursed forever," he said, "but you've brought an end to it. It's to him." I looked down at the glyphid in my bag, the faint hum of Snowbee's containment resonating through the leather strap. I didn't feel victorious, not exactly. I felt responsible for a creature so powerful it could bury an entire town in ice, responsible for the lives lost over the years, and for now, responsible for containing his safety. For now, Frostfane was safe, and Snobii, the Frost Memory Glyph, was logged. I didn't waste a second with Snobii safely contained in the glyphid tucked securely in my bag. I headed straight to Orion. The streets of Frostfane blurred behind me, steam rising from melted snow, and my thoughts were spinning faster than the wind. I arrived at his study, the warm glow of lanterns cutting through the chill that had followed me like a shadow. Orion usually met me with measured calm, his words precise and deliberate, sometimes almost too cold, like they had been polished over decades or discipline. I expected the usual lecture about keeping my glyphids safe, about proper containment, and about keeping my glyphs safe as well, and about my careless forgetfulness in leaving the book behind. Instead, he surprised me. "Keep Snobii," he said. His voice was low, almost hesitant. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, eyes unusually thoughtful. "You might be able to help him." I froze. Orion never said things like that. Ever. He wasn't the kind to suggest keeping a wild, potentially dangerous glyph. Instead of handing it over for study or storage, his expression held no humor, no trick, only seriousness, as unfamiliar trust waiting in his eyes. "Help him?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Yes," he replied. "Most catchers would seal him and forget him, but you understand them differently. You see their patterns, their emotions. That storm he cast over Frostfane wasn't just defense. It was sorrow, frustration, loneliness. If anyone could guide him, or even heal what's left of him, it might be you." My stomach tightened, responsibility passed down like the Snobii had thrown around the frost vein, heavier than any weight I'd ever felt before. Are you sure? I asked. My hands tightened around the strap of my bag. He's huge, Orion, and strong. I almost got buried out there. Orion's eyes softened just a fraction, and he leaned forward. I know, that's why I didn't stop you. I know you're careful, Stelliferous, but more importantly, I know you can connect with him. I swallowed, nodding slowly. For the first time, I didn't feel just like a catcher. I felt like someone who could really make a difference for a glyph, not just record or contain them. Then I'll keep him safe, I said, my voice firm, carrying more conviction than I expected, and I'll try to help him. Orion gave me a small, approving nod, something almost like a smile. Good. That's all I ask. I left his study, feeling the weight of the task ahead, but also a spark of purpose. Snobii wasn't just a captured glyph anymore. He was a chance to do something no one else could. And somehow I knew this was only the beginning for me and Snobii.